A California man pleaded guilty on Monday to sneaking into a zoo after hours and stealing the oldest living ring-tailed lemur in North American captivity to keep the rare animal as a pet. Aquinas Casper, 19, admitted before U.S. District Judge Andrew Gilford to using bolt cutters on July 27 of last year to cut a hole in the enclosures for lemurs and capuchin monkeys at the Santa Ana Zoo in order to steal 32-year-old Isaac. According to court documents, Casper abandoned the animal in a plastic drawer with no ventilation the next day in front of a hotel in Newport Beach, south of Los Angeles. He left a note saying that the lemur, which is on the list of the 25 most endangered primates and whose lifespan typically is 20 to 25 years, belonged to the zoo and should be taken to police. Isaac was eventually returned unharmed to the zoo. Casper faces 1 year in prison and a $100,000 fine at his sentencing on October 28. Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam said on Tuesday the extradition bill that sparked the territory's biggest political crisis in decades was dead, admitting that the government's work on the bill had been a total failure. The bill, which would have allowed people in Hong Kong to be sent to mainland China to face trial, sparked huge and at times violent street protests and plunged the former British colony into turmoil. In mid-June, Lam responded to huge protests by suspending the bill. But that move failed to mollify critics, who continued to demonstrate against the bill and call for Lam's resignation. Hong Kong was returned to China from Britain in 1997. Lawmakers must pass legislation easing abhorrent conditions facing children held at the southern border, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Monday as she tried taking the offensive on an issue that badly split Democrats and has raised questions about their unity on other issues. Ms. Pelosi, Democrat California, tried rallying Democrats against a common foe Republicans led by President Donald Trump less than 2 weeks after a $4.6 billion border bill drove a bitter rift into her party. Although the measure passed Congress easily and became law, many House progressives and Hispanics voted no because they said the measure lacked real controls on how the government must handle children, while the party moderates and senators said the measure was the best compromise they could craft. With the Go-run Senate, in a letter to colleagues returning from an 11-day 4th of July recess, Ms. Pelosi said Democrats must lead a battle cry across America to protect the children, with input from agencies. All eyes are set on Legislative Assembly Speaker K.R. Ramesh Kumar as he returns to office on Tuesday and takes a call on the resignations submitted by the 13 MLAs last week. His decision will play a key role in how the fiasco over the government pans out. The Speaker, on Saturday, promised to initiate the process on Tuesday by calling all MLAs, speaking to them, and then taking a decision. The rebel MLAs are expected to meet the Speaker on Tuesday morning. They would, however, not be attending the Congress Legislature Party meeting, sources claimed. While the coalition government has emptied out the old cabinet in an attempt to woo back the rebel MLAs, the Congress and the Janata Dal, secular, are also planning to fight it out legally. The Congress may petition the Speaker seeking disqualification of the rebel MLAs under 10th schedule of the Constitution for defection. We have evidence to prove that the MLAs did not resign voluntarily but have been instigated by the Bharatiya Janata Party, and this is only a way to defect, said a senior Congress leader. The JDS is also likely to move a similar petition against the 3 rebel MLAs. The rebel MLAs have reportedly been promised that they would be made ministers when the BJP government is sworn in, even before the bypolls. The law allows a person to be sworn in as minister and provides 6 months for the person to be elected to either of the houses. If the MLAs are disqualified for defection, They cannot become ministers in the alternate BJP government till they are successfully elected as legislators, said a Congress strategist. Section 164 (1)(b) of the Constitution stipulates that a member disqualified under 10th schedule cannot be appointed minister till the date on which the term of his office as such member would expire or till the person is elected to either of the houses, whichever is earlier. If the Speaker disqualifies them, it can be challenged even by a third party in court, which will only create a stalemate for the bypolls to be held. This essentially would create roadblocks for the rebel MLAs to become ministers immediately, the strategist said. He claimed that with all the cabinet ministers resigning, the rebel MLAs have a better chance to become ministers in the coalition government than in a BJP government. However, the success of this strategy would depend on whether the Speaker would disqualify them for defection. Senior advocate Ravivan Kumar told The Hindu that the 10th schedule has not defined defection, which allows discretion for the Speaker to decide whether the circumstances of the resignation of the MLAs amounted to defection. BJP strategists termed the move as a psychological pressure tactic on the rebel MLAs. The party has instead decided to deploy pressure tactic on the Speaker, as it is considering moving a no-confidence motion against the Speaker in the Assembly on July 12, when the House convenes for the monsoon session. If the Speaker delays taking a decision on the resignations, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is planning to travel to India in September, just days before he faces elections. Official and diplomatic sources confirmed to The Hindu. Mr. Netanyahu, who was due to be in Delhi in February this year, also just ahead of the last Israeli election, will make a short visit, possibly just for a day on September 9, where he is due to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi and discuss the bilateral relationship. However, the final date of the visit was being worked out. The sources said, India-Israel relations have been growing rapidly in the last few years, and Mr. Modi became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Israel in 2017. A visit Mr. Netanyahu returned in January 2018, which marked 25 years since the establishment of full diplomatic relations. Speaking at a Yoga Day event last month, Indian ambassador to Tel Aviv Pawan Kapoor said the relationship was moving in an upward trajectory. Modi and Netanyahu share an excellent equation, and it is in their tenure that we have had PM Modi coming to Israel for the first time and PM Netanyahu visiting India. Mr. Netanyahu's February visit was cancelled due to scheduling difficulties, especially since both Israel and India were heading into election season at the time. Despite winning what appeared to be a convincing victory in April, Mr. Netanyahu was unable to build a coalition in the 120-member Knesset, Israeli parliament, and was forced to declare fresh elections, which will now be held on September 17. In the run-up to the visit, bilateral talks on defense issues have focused on the emergency procurement of Spike anti-tank missiles and the purchase of more precision-guided munitions that were used during the Balakot strikes by the Indian Air Force. The two sides are also discussing a long-pending proposal to buy 2 Falcon AWACS warning systems for more than $1 billion that is believed to be awaiting clearance from the Cabinet Committee on Security, CCS. Mr. Netanyahu's visit will also come amidst rising US-Iran tensions, and he is expected to make a case for India to align itself less with Tehran to join Israel and the US in putting pressure on the regime there. In a tweet on Friday, Israel's envoy to India Ron Malka said that Iran, by promoting state-sponsored terrorism around the globe, is the number one threat to regional and global peace and security. While India has fallen in line with the US sanctions on cutting its oil imports from Iran, it retains a strong relationship with the Iranian government, and has publicly expressed its concerns over the impact of a war in West Asia on the millions of Indians living and working in the region. During a meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump on the sidelines of the G20 summit, Mr. Modi listed Iran as one of the 4 areas for discussion, which also included bilateral, defense and telecommunication issues. While there has been no official confirmation of the visit yet, a columnist in Israeli newspaper Haaretz has said that the quick trip by Mr. Netanyahu would be akin to an election photo op to boost his chances at re-election. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a true friend. A friend indeed for a friend in need. It's a good bet that Modi and his aides know why the bride's in a rush to go under the Chippa Jewish wedding canopy. But what are friends for? Columnist Yossi Vater wrote in the newspaper over the weekend, with inputs from Dinakar Perry.